Mr. Davide Casaleggio, president of the Rousseau Association, that has designed an internet technology platform which allows hundreds of thousands of Italian citizens to directly participate in the decisions of the political force they support today in government, and a platform that is promoting the concept of digital citizenship worldwide. Please, Mr. Casaleggio, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm actually very interested in the topic of digital ID, because I think digital ID is one of the three basic things that should be given to every citizen in the world. Because if we're here today, it's because throughout history, technology innovations have always led to the emergence of new rights and new tools for exercising existing ones. So because not having access to certain technologies means not being able to fully exercise some of the rights, all the rights. And history proves it. And history proves it in every industrial revolution. During the first industrial revolution, we had the invention of a steam engine that created profound social change. Above all, slavery was abolished and new rights were born, such as citizenship without race difference. Yet 2 centuries later, 600 million people still live in farms without any mechanization. And 40 million people in the world live in slavery conditions. In the second industrial revolution, brought us the invention of electricity and the internal combustion engine. These innovations allowed to the emancipation of the concept of work from the concept of physical strength. Women could work, and we arrived to citizenship without distinction of sex. And the limitation of child labor was introduced. In those years, the battles for free access to health service and transport that in the Midwell had seen epical improvements started off. Yet even today, 1 person in 3 in the world has no clean water and has health problems. 1 in 6 has no electricity. So now we're here to the third industrial revolution that has brought us the internet and digital technology, that has created the opportunity to exercise rights with a greater force directly online. Like when they invented the public libraries in England, that happened in 1700 with King George II, that gave the permission to copy all the books in the kingdom using the Gutenberg technology, the printing technology. So every time we had new technologies, our rights changed, evolved, and new rights came up. Or more recently, when in the 1990s, when Jean Polly, a librarian from Liverpool, US, set up the internet access in public libraries. And today it's a normal thing to have here in the US. This evolution also involves the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which today can only be fully exercised with the use of the internet. The first and second industrial revolution laid the foundation of the birth of parliamentary democracies, mostly born between 1800 and 1900, the early 1900s. The third industrial revolution created the basis for our participatory democracy, since technology gave us the tools to put it in place. Delegation and representation must be accompanied every time this is possible by a direct participation of people in the important choices of the community. So, for example, when we talk about to participate in the government of his own country, Article 21 of Human Rights Declaration, today we can actually exercise it with the participatory budgeting, for example. Here in New York, nearly 100,000 people decide how to allocate $37 million of their own town. And this happens in Paris, it happens in Buenos Aires, it happens also in Rome. So another way to exercise these rights is online voting. Estonia is certainly one important example of how 1/3 of the population already today votes online for general elections. Or in Italy, and here I come to the Rousseau example, for the decisions of a movement, where we can actually decide which representatives will be chosen or which political choices will be done. For example, we had the world record of participation in a single day on online voting, with 80,000 people in one day voting for the recent government. So proposing to the government of parliament, and here we have the example of Finland, for example, where people can actually propose, I think with 50,000 people that signatures online, that can actually propose and submit a request to your government online. Or in Latvia, where you need only 10,000 people. Or in Great Britain, where if you have 10,000 people, online signatures, you can actually receive an answer from the government. Or if you have 100,000 people, you can put it into Parliament as a discussion. So this is just an example of how a basic right of the Human Rights Declaration can be now accessed with many new ways, many new tools that this third industrial revolution has brought to us. Another example is the freedom of assembly and peaceful association, Article 20, or the freedom of opinion and expression, Article 19. For example, women in Nigeria support themselves online on the Fin network, a private group online that has 1.7 million women that give support to each other. And this was founded by Lola Omolola following a kidnapping of 300 girls from a school by Boko Haram militiamen. So we have already examples of how technology is changing the world and is changing access to rights. Or in Italy, when we had freedom of assembly, that's an important part. And in 2007, we created the first V-Day in one weekend with events all around Italy, organized only online. We managed to gather 300,000 signatures to propose a law to the parliament for a clean parliament from parliamentarians. And only with the internet, only the day after, the mass media in Italy actually talked about it. Or in 2008, an unemployed programmer succeeded in building his online campaign in Colombia with No More FARC, and that took 12 million people in the streets. So each individual right ends with the community rights. So this is something that communities must decide where to draw that line. But there are some three fundamental rights where I think everyone should agree with, and one of them was shown before, which is digital identity, because only if individuals can demonstrate their identity online can they claim their rights. The other one is free and neutral access to the internet. Today, only half of the world, we were remembering before, has access to the internet. But the internet is the way to access basic rights for the people. And the third is digital education on these rights. People need to know about these rights and need to know how to exercise them. So to use these prerogatives that we write on paper, it has always been necessary to have some tools. Technology allows us to get closer to our full exercise of the civic freedom. We need to start designing, building, and defending and spreading these tools. Are women in Nigeria just luckier just because there's an internet penetration higher than the rest of Africa? Or the citizens living in New York, Paris, or Rome, are they just luckier because they can access the decisions on how to allocate the budget of their town? Or the Finnish or Latvian or the British that can actually decide or ask their government directly online? Or the members of the Five-Star Movement who can choose online their representatives or whether or not to form a government? The time, I think, The time for experiment has now finished. So the disparities between countries are widening on the access to the basic rights, especially in the poorest ones. Today, citizens know that these rights can be exercised, and we should begin to demand full access to digital citizenship for everyone. Thank you.